Well, welcome everybody. Another VTV, and this week we have Ryan Sanders from Haka Tours, which is going to be exciting. Quickly, as previous, remember to use the chat function in the Q&A section. Remember to set your questions to all attendees and panelists to ensure that we get them. But Ryan, thanks for coming on board today. Glad that you've given up some time to chat to us. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what angle you're coming from.
So a bit about myself. So yeah, Ryan, I started Haka Tourism Group in 2007. And essentially Haka Tourism Group is a series of niche touring brands, vertically integrated with accommodation. Essentially we've got three touring brands: Haka Tours, which runs a small group adventure and snow tours of New Zealand; NZ Snow Tours, which is more of a high-end snow touring brand; and a company called ANZ Nature Tours, which provides guided tours in German language to essentially baby boomers. And then with the accommodation, we've got 6 Haka lodges across New Zealand, which are essentially high-end hostels. And we opened our first 2 Haka hotels in Auckland, nearing on 2 years ago. And those hotels are minimum service, small design-led boutique hotels.
Yeah, nice, brilliant. So you cover quite a wide area of the industry.
Yeah, we've essentially got 3 kind of core businesses within Haka Tourism Group. One is our touring brands, the second is our accommodation, and actually third, which I forgot to mention before, our fastest growing brand, is our educational tours. So yeah, quite a wide breadth of what we cover. But yeah, essentially it comes down to our business strategy, which is this vertical integration of a bunch of tourism units. We'll trade off one another and really capture different parts of the market.
Yeah, nice, brilliant. And just to give some context, who's your main client? Who's your main person that would come on those?
We've got 2 types of clients which we actively target. So first of all, if we think about our pricing strategy, because that's really important first, then define what your target market is. So for Haka Tours and our lodges, we like to call our pricing strategy high end of the low end. So essentially we're high end budget, and for our category, so hostels with the Haka lodges and with the guided tours, Haka Tours, would really be the most expensive in the category. So at the high end of the budget. And so our average customer is 32, time poor professional, solo traveller, and our core markets, it's purely an international market that we target. Well, we used to target. Australia, Canada, US, UK, Germany. And then the second tier of customer that we look after is really with these new products, these new guided touring products called Haka Plus. And they're essentially active people in their late 40s, 50s and 60s, generally traveling as couples or in 2 groups of friends. And that's what we're vertically integrating with our Haka hotel brand. Nice. And those people, the same, they come from Australia, US, mainly UK and Canada.
Nice. So we can thank you for all our loyal supporters around the world that know probably more about our country than what we do, right?
Yeah, well, look, we don't spend pretty much anything domestically. Well, pre-COVID we didn't. It was all offshore. But you definitely got a domestic marketing campaign ready to go now.
No, good. So first question, give us from your perspective, give us a bit of a pulse of the industry. How are you finding it? What's your thoughts?
Look, there's no other words to say. It's probably the most challenging time I've ever been in. So I'm 13 years into my entrepreneurial journey. But even speaking to people who've been in the industry a lot longer, look, you'd struggle to find a time that was tougher than what we're facing right now. So it's incredibly tough. I speak a lot really about, for me, it being a really emotionally challenging time. I am, like all of you, really invested in what we do. And it's just really heartbreaking to see a lot of the work that we've put in really diminish just so quickly with the pandemic. But look, there is reason to be hopeful. And I think there's a lot of news which we can pin hopes on, and just really started pulling ourselves out of this pandemic and looking to a brighter future. So there's enough good news out there that I'm feeling optimistic.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And Kiwis are quite a resourceful bunch of people, right? We've they haven't been here before, but similar circumstances in different ways.
Yeah, look, there's always a way to get out of things. I think, look, it's part of our DNA, being resourceful. I think everything that's happened with this global pandemic In terms of brand New Zealand, I think it's set us in a really good light. And I honestly do feel we're going to be even more so a country of choice to visit to after this pandemic. It might take a year or two for those long haul destinations to really open up. But I think from a brand New Zealand point of view, we're in such a strong position, and that's something to be very thankful for.
Nice, that's good. What's your thoughts and ideas, predictions on when we'll see some light in the end of the tunnel? As far as
Well, it's a changing feast, isn't it? We've got new information coming at us every day, every week, every month. Yesterday, there was a bunch of news articles that came out around really pushing for the Trans-Tasman bubble to open up in July for the school holidays, which would be absolutely amazing for us. If that does go ahead, we do run snow tours over winter, so that have a huge impact for us. And also with our educational brand, we have a lot of Australian schools that we bring over during the school holidays. So if that does open up in July, not just for us, but I think for the wider tourism industry, that would be a huge, huge win. We were pinning our hopes on September. So if that can be brought a month forward, that's going to have a huge, huge benefit to us. As we know, running businesses and working in businesses every week, every day, that we can open earlier has huge impacts into the bottom line. So if July, as per the news that was released last night, if that did go ahead, that would be absolutely huge. We do have a lot of European partners, so much more long haul partners. They're really hoping that they can start traveling in early part of next year. Whether that will come to fruition, I'm unsure, but from a Haka Tourism Group perspective, we're really planning at this stage for a lot of our German and European travel partners to be traveling in January 2021. Once again, things are changing pretty quickly. Really comes down to air connectivity and these green passports that have been labelled over in Europe. Whether adopt a similar approach with areas of Europe or further afield that have got COVID under control. Who knows? But look, first of all, if July could happen in that South Pacific bubble, I'd have some much better sleeping at night, I tell you.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously your client base comes from offshore. What are you doing to try and capture more clients at the moment? And obviously our only option is local market, right?
Yeah, definitely.
What's your sort of approach there?
I think when I talked before about the three verticals that we've got in our business: tours, accommodation, and educational. Yeah. It's really creating new bespoke product for a domestic market, but also partnering up with other international partners who might have a strong presence in New Zealand that we can utilise their sales channel. So really on the touring side, it's creating a whole bunch of 2-night to 6-night packages, really targeted to the domestic market, and maybe stuff that they wouldn't be able to so easily research and plan themselves. So you're really utilising our deep local knowledge. Yeah. So we've developed 8 products which we're selling through an international partner, which are really targeted the domestic market. Yeah. On the educational side, we can really strongly with a lot of domestic schools and really pivot some of our product for them. And then obviously on the accommodation side, lodges and hotels, really making sure that they've got a compelling proposition for that domestic market. I think we're always really adamant that we'd always like to add value before we immediately start discounting. Sure. So I'd really like people to really take that on board and think about ways that they can offer increased value and add additional services, as opposed to always just defaulting to discounting straight away. And look, ultimately, I do think there does need to be some discounting, but if you can kind of marry that up with a bit of value add, that would be really great too.
Yeah, that's a lot better long-term strategy than
definitely
discount. That's pretty short term. How are you finding the accommodation sector? So you've got properties Queenstown right through to Coromandel, Auckland.
Yeah, so we've got 8 properties across New Zealand. Yeah. So we've gone for a mixed approach, really. We've definitely hibernated some of our regional properties that we know. Well, straight off the bat, we just knew that they're going to be quite quiet. So, for example, Bay of Islands and Taupo, we did hibernate straight away. Yeah. We are looking to reopen those in October, but the latest would be 1st November. But if the South Pacific bubble opens up, Trans-Tasman bubble, we'll definitely open earlier. With some of our Auckland properties, we've got 4 sites in Auckland. And that's quite a lot of sites to have in one particular city, particularly in a time like this. So we've partnered up with some local government bodies. Our property on K Road, Haka Lodge K Road, we have partnered up with a homeless shelter. And so we've subcontracted that out for 6 months. And really offering a managed service with that property. and just looking at innovative ways where we can work with special interest groups. I think for us, we have entered into quite long-term arrangements with a lot of our the developers that we partnered up with, the property owners. We don't own any of those 8 properties, and we have previously, but we've sold some back. So really working with them to create a really clear picture, because these people have got mortgages to pay as well, a really clear picture of how the next year would work out, and some of the activity that we're doing to really help drive revenue. For us, it's all about over communicating with our landlords at this stage, really everything that we're doing to give them faith that we're looking at all angles, really.
Yeah, good. What's the best? I've got a question from a guest on today. What's the best way to make a change from our usual clients of international guests to domestic guests? So we have sort of touched on this already, but they're asking what's the best way to make that change. I think they were based up in the Coromandel area, and their client base was around 70% of international guests. Obviously, that's evaporated. What would be your recommendation of how they can transfer through to domestic?
So we're in a very similar situation. So we would have about 90% of our market would always previously been international. So only 10% domestic. So we definitely feel your pain and know where you're coming from. For us, ultimately, it comes down to a lot of partnerships. So have a think about who you could partner with in the local market that also has the same challenges as you, or potentially they do have a domestic campaign already. And when I talked before about adding value, can you partner up with a car hire company or an activity operator to really provide, some stay and play packages where you're combining your accommodation experience with some local activities and have it, once again, at a good price point. Not really discounting a huge amount, but enough for it to be an attractive proposition, and really packaging up a number of products. I think combined together, like our strength is really combined as an industry. And I think the more people that you can partner with locally to really create a compelling proposition for the domestic tourists to come and visit you, I think it's really, really powerful. So first of all, look at partnerships and co-working with other people. Ultimately, that's what we always do. Really get in touch with travel reporters or travel journalists. They're always looking for fresh new content. So if you do have something that you really want to let the domestic market know about, really leverage the potential of free PR. It can be quite difficult, and you can spend a lot of time on it, but can have some huge wins. So there's a lot of travel journalists out there at the moment looking to write compelling stories about your region, which maybe isn't high in the agenda of the domestic tourism market. So from our point of view, it really does come down to partnerships and PR. Those are the two things that we really, really focus on. And look, you've got to make sure that you've got everything in line in terms of how you're listed on the OTAs. There's no way you're getting away from it. So just make sure that all of your imagery, all of your video, all of your copy, how your property is presented on the OTAs is really world class.
I mean, I say for myself, what you're saying there about making sure everything's up to scratch, and working with those journalists as well. As a company, for my family and myself, we travel a lot around the country. But every time you go on a New Zealand flight and read the Kia magazine, they've always got that article in there about a destination in New Zealand. And every time you learn something new about it. And some of these places we've been to time and time again, but that local knowledge supersedes anything that anyone else knows.
Oh, definitely.
So it's telling those stories.
Obvious for you is obviously always obvious to other people.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the local knowledge that you've got in your region.
Mm-hmm. I like what I think it was THL, which is Maui campers and that. Mm-hmm. They got their bands going out at some good rates at the moment, and we've had a few guys here in the office try and book those for a family getaway just to travel in their own region, but totally different experience, right? Traveling around in a big camper van, quite different experience. Yeah. But you can see it stimulating quite a bit of interest just in the office. So it can be done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think they've sold it already, haven't they, for the next week or two? So
truly.
Yeah,
that's cool.
News last night, so yeah, they've had a lot of interest.
Yeah, which on a webinar about accommodation, right? It's not what everyone wants to hear, but it's good for the local economy as well. Those people travelling through different provincial towns and that, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, sure.
Although they might not be staying in their beds, right? Yeah. we try and steer away from politics, but what's your thoughts on the government support and that kind of thing at the moment?
Through the lens of tourism, look, I've got to say, it's underwhelming, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could use some stronger words. Okay, we are gutted. We were hoping for a bigger support package, definitely, than the 400 million. Definitely when you look at the value that the tourism industry brings to New Zealand, from a proportionate value, it just didn't really feel like enough. Secondly, our general manager, Eve Lawrence, she's been very vocal and had a range of different media interviews, and she's also presented to the government or the Pandemic Response Committee about some of the things that we would have liked to have seen. We were pushing really, really hard for a form of rent support that was very much top of our agenda. I know from our point of view, our fixed liabilities every month in terms of those 8 properties is about $350,000 per month.
Yeah.
We were really hoping for some support in terms of commercial rent relief. Look, it was good to get an 8-week subsidy extension, but ultimately, in terms of planning and really taking a longer view to how we want to manage our businesses out of that pandemic, probably does feel a little bit light. I do think that the 30% drop in revenue, which businesses had to commit to for the first 12-week subsidy, was far too light. From my point of view, a 30% drop is just a really bad month. Whether that needs government intervention, I would say no. If it was me coming up with the plan straight off the bat, that wage subsidy would have been for businesses that have had probably in a 60% or up impact on revenue for the same period last year, and really targeting people that really needed it. And also go for a longer wage subsidy straight off the bat. So yeah, look, overall, I think there's been great communication, really helped Brand New Zealand in terms of how to respond to this pandemic.
Yep.
But I do think from a tourism point of view, yeah, a bit gutted.
Yeah, no, everyone's sort of, we're getting those vibes through a lot. Everyone's thinking quite similar things. What new trends do you think will emerge in this industry?
I think the new trends that will emerge, I think ultimately for the next 12, 18 months, people are going to want to travel in their own bubble or smaller groups.
Mm-hmm.
From a wider tourism perspective, I think people are quite reluctant to go on the traditional group tours with 50 people on a bus. So I do think it will be, this is always a trend, but I think it will exaggerate the fact that you've got multi-generational families travelling together, solo travellers, people travelling in couples or small groups. So I definitely think that will increase. I do think people initially will have less disposable income. So they will, they'll probably have less trips and probably spend a bit more time planning and really making the right decisions around what experiences or what people to book with moving forward. Because if you're traveling less, you want to make sure that you've really kind of nailed your pre-trip planning. And so it's really important to have all of the information about your products and services really clear through all of your marketing material.
Yeah.
Obviously, people travel closer to home. Initially, if this Trans-Tasman opens up, I think there'll be a lot of Asia Pac and more localised travel before long haul kicks in. And I do think, as we've seen with the GFC, particular market segments will activate first. And so really have a look at the different kind of market segments that you kind of target, and really have a really good think about which ones you think will activate first. From my point of view, with Haka Tourism Group, for us, the ones that have activated first have been more of that higher end youth market, so people in 25 to 35, and also the baby boomers and people with a bit more discretionary income. So, but yeah, ultimately the trends are closer to home first before long haul activates and smaller groups for sure.
Good. That's great. Well, we've been 20 minutes, Ryan. I really appreciate your time. Do you have any final words that you want to pass through to our group today? We've got about 150 registrants on these calls, and ranges from hotels, motels, holiday parks, backpackers, even a few of our opposition. Well, not opposition, you know what I mean. So there's so many people that are interested, and it's good to see everyone that's coming together, try and help this industry. So it's good.
Look, I would just say, look, our strength combined is our biggest asset. As I said before at the start of the call, I do think if we can hold on for the next year or two, I think we're going to see much better times. I think New Zealand Inc. has had a huge shot of adrenaline, and I think it's going to really pay its dues moving forward. I would say be vocal, like talk about what you need from a support point of view.
Yeah.
I do think the government's really hearing our call, so really partner up with your local industry, whether it's the Hotel Association or TIA or your regional tourism body, whoever it is, but really be quite vocal about what you feel you need as an independent business to help you survive. We really need to be getting all of that feedback and pushing it through the channels and really make sure our voice is heard. But look, now is a time to really partner up and work together with different people in your industry. I can't stress that enough. Be open with your information, open with your data, open with your trends. Sharing of knowledge. Now is the time to really make sure that we're all putting our best foot forward to make sure that we all win.
Well, it's the old saying, isn't it? The squeaky wheel gets oiled. There's plenty of oil coming out of the government at the moment. So it's about making sure that it's coming the way of these accommodation providers. Yeah. No, that's great. Really appreciate everyone coming on today. And finally, Ryan, I appreciate your time. You're doing it rough. So thinking of you guys, great brand with Haka. We've stayed in your properties before, brilliant properties. I was thinking some of those people that you're talking about, the homeless shelter you got there, they'd be one of the best shelters around, I think.
They would be. I mean, that property was rated, the world's fourth best hostel in 2019. So
yeah,
they're getting a good stay. But look, we're happy to help out wherever possible.
Yeah, no, cool. Great. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good week, or what's left of it. Sing out to myself or Ryan or our teams if we can help with any further points on these things that we've covered. Love to hear from you. Thanks all. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.